The foolish and deadly errors made in President Biden's hasty Afghan withdrawal are many, and they include one, pulling our troops out before we got stranded Americans out, abandoning Bagram Airport, leaving untold military treasure behind for the Taliban, sharing intel and security with the terrorist Taliban at Kabul Airport, a move that certainly didn't forestall and may have actually hastened a mass murder-suicide bombing. Then there were the many misstatements by the president and his team that confused and infuriated our allies. So where do we go from here? Joining us now is Ric Grenell, the perfect person to answer that question, former acting director of national intelligence, former ambassador to Germany, and many, many other things. Ric, great to see you. It's impossible to go through all of the unforced errors, but of all of them, I think leaving Americans behind before the troops were removed, which is something the president said he wouldn't do, which, of course, he reneged on that promise. I think that's the worst, don't you?
Look, I'm not sure yet because we're in the midst of this crisis still. It's not over, and although Washington, D.C. media circles think the whole thing is over and we can now talk about what went wrong, we've got two really crises still in the making. One, we've got weapons that are in the hands of our enemies. I just met with President Trump this week for almost 2 hours, and he was really focused on this problem that's forthcoming. What's going to happen if these weapons end up in Iran? There's already some signs that that's happening. That's the first crisis. David, the second crisis is something that I've been hearing about over the last couple of days from my time in Germany. Many of my former colleagues, people that worked for the embassy, are calling to tell me, and these are career officials both in the State Department and Consular Affairs and in DHS, based in Germany, and they're calling me to tell me that the vetting process is a disaster at Ramstein Air Force Base.
Wow.
We have got a real problem here. We've got tens of thousands of Afghans who are coming in from Kuwait. Sometimes they're just refueling in Ramstein and then moving on. This is really something that Congress needs to get involved with, because the Biden team is asking career officials to put these people through quickly when there is a lack of information, when they don't have documentation. They're being told to use a hunch. Use your own internal mechanism to know whether or not these individuals should come to the United States. Now, let me just say that you're putting career officials in a terrible position, because now they are going to get in trouble. Congress mandates these criteria. The State Department should be taking its time. We all want to welcome refugees and Americans. We welcome 1 million Americans every single year, but there's 100 million people waiting in line. We have to have better vetting. I'm very nervous at the vetting process. We've already seen the Associated Press now come forward and say they're finding individuals that made it to the United States from Afghanistan who have child brides with them.
Wow.
Kids who they've married. How did they get through the State Department and DHS vetting system? The answer is very clear. The Biden administration has pressured our frontline career officials in Germany to speed through the process and use a hunch if you don't have enough documentation. That's illegal, and Congress needs to step in.
Well, we started to get signs of it. We got a document from a pilot, a former Air Force pilot who had a friend who was a United pilot, who said he flew a bunch of Afghans over from Kuwait to Dulles, right directly to the United States from Kuwait. He said practically none, just a couple of them spoke English, so they obviously weren't translators. And he said that some of those people clearly had not worked with Americans at all. So at the same time yesterday, I don't know if you heard it, but you had the general in Europe bragging about how well they did their vetting process, saying they only had one red flag with all the thousands and thousands of refugees. I mean, how could he say something like that?
He's lying, because I can tell you these people worked for me in Germany. I know them. I have multiple people reaching out to me. I even have situations where people were asked to volunteer because it's such a chaotic situation at Ramstein. People were asked to volunteer, and they're refusing to volunteer because they don't want to get trapped into pushing people through. Now, your example of flying here from Kuwait, I'm going to bet that they did a touchdown at Ramstein to refuel, because I'm told that when certain flights from Kuwait touch down to refuel, that DHS is putting air marshals on those planes as they enter the United States. Now think about that. If the vetting process is so perfect and we're bringing refugees out, why are we putting air marshals on the plane? Because we're nervous about the vetting. It's a disaster.
It's extraordinary.
And things are not going well.
You know, it leads me to ask, because a lot of this is happening in Europe, a lot of the transfers. Our European allies, I mean, first of all, when the president, I guess it was last week, said that they had been fully informed of our withdrawal plans, which clearly wasn't true. And then he began to blame the Afghan military for all of the disasters that had occurred with the Taliban taking over. We had, and this is a memorable moment, I just want to play the tape, this British parliamentarian, I think he was the head of the Foreign Affairs Committee in Parliament in Britain, saying the following. Let me just roll that tape.
To see their commander-in-chief call into question the courage of men I fought with, to claim that they ran. It's shameful. Those who have never fought for the colours they fly should be careful about criticizing those who have.
You know, I get goosebumps when I hear that, because it was shameful. What this finger pointing about what went wrong there. It's just our allies. Are we ever going to get them? Is this administration ever going to get them back in its good graces? Because they may have had some sympathy at the very beginning of this presidency, but I don't see any now. Do you?
Well, they wanted him. I think they all wanted Joe Biden because they want an America that's built on consensus. But let me just tell you, it's not just the British that's a problem. Remember the name Armin Laschet. He is going to replace Angela Merkel. He is going to be the new leader of Germany. It's my prediction. By the end of this month, he will be in as the new chancellor. He's already been incredibly critical of the Biden administration on Afghanistan, calling it a disaster.
Yeah.
This is a situation with our allies that is not going to easily turn around. They wanted Joe Biden, and they regret it because, as they know, if you don't have an America that leads, you don't have a global policy that works.
It's buyer's remorse. I see a lot of that happening. We have very little time, Rick, but very quickly, you don't think all of this is coming from Joe Biden, or if it is, it's with a big assist from other people, in particular one, Susan Rice. Do you think she's calling a lot of the shots here?
Well, remember when she was National Security Advisor, her two deputies, one was Anthony Blinken, who's now running diplomacy at the State Department. Her other deputy was Avril Haines, who runs the intelligence program. Both of those, diplomacy, intelligence, report into Susan Rice. No one believes that Susan Rice is doing domestic policy. Raise your hand if you think that she's working on Medicare, Medicaid. She's not.
Ric Grenell, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.